Hey folks, this is Strong Games and welcome to Total War Warhammer 3. Today we're going to look at Malekith and a kind of a getting started guide for the Dark Elves. So, kind of to start this guide off, we'll have a look at the faction effects. So, kind of Malekith's faction gets kind of improved relations with Dark Elves, increases allegiance points when you make alliances with Dark Elves. You have better loyalty for new recruits, so if your loyalty gets too low when you recruit new lords, they'll actually rebel and you'll have to fight with them. And you get reduced upkeep for Blackguard of Naggarond, which are pretty strong units. And then Dread Spears, Bleak Swords, and Dark Shards are just really quite good in the early game. I mean, Dread Spears and Bleak Swords really aren't that good ever, but Dark Shards are pretty good in the early game. And then if we go to Malekith here, we'll put the Sorceress in there, and we'll take a look at Malekith's traits. So he has a couple really strong traits. One is control. If Malekith is in the province, it adds a significant amount of control, reduces the chance of rebellions, and he reduces the construction costs for building. So when you're building settlements up, having him in the area can be really good. Reduces the amount of money that you have to spend, and he reduces enemy leadership, which is really good for rooting enemy armies. So he is good for that as well. If we go to his tree here, he's got specific ones. You can either pick Tyrant or War Leader later on. Now, War Leader kind of gives you decreased upkeep, that sort of thing. But if you pick Tyrant, it improves your control, income from everything, and it allows you access to this one here, Efforts Redoubled, which is extremely good, improves the income from all buildings in a province by 30%, decreases construction time and cost, and improves growth. So really good for growing provinces, and it also has a significant amount of anti-corruption effect here. So you can use him to clean up corruption in areas, though you want to be a little bit careful with that because eventually he will develop a trait for being in corrupted areas. And you get improved income from slaves through your whole faction. Now, slaves are a really important aspect for the Dark Elf factions. As you build up regions, basically the more slaves you have in a region, the more money you make out of it. When we're playing in the early game, one of the things that you want to focus on is actually when you go to upgrade Naggarond, which you should do as much as you can early on. If you go into the building browser, there's actually a section here that's called Slave Pens. This is an extremely important ability to build, particularly early on, and it's important for a very, very specific reason. The rights that you get access to cost slaves, so you actually have to spend slaves to do these. And you can see certain ones here. So to authority, you get increased control. It can be important for retaining control of areas. Get increased chance to have loyalty. Then you have Cain and Hakardi, and these have kind of just bonuses to battle, or this is specifically your sorceresses. But the one that's really important in the early game is the sacrifice to Mathlan, and it's because of its ability to unlock Black Arcs. Black Arcs are really, really good for Dark Elf factions because you can recruit units from them, as well as they provide bonuses to armies that fight within kind of a circle around them. And they're really important to get access to early on because they take a lot of time to grow. They grow just like a city does, and so getting access to them early and then just kind of like keeping them around Naggarond is really, really good for the early game. So what I tend to do at the beginning here is, so we actually unlock the sacrifice to Hakardi right away, but I don't have enough money to do it, which is okay. Actually, I have enough money, but I don't have enough slaves, so That's okay. I'm gonna go here, fight the Skaven clan. And again, I like to fight these battles manually. You tend to get better rewards. You can get unit experience, you can get money, or you can get slaves. So getting slaves and collecting slaves early on with Malekith's army is really good, because again, the more slaves that you get, the more money you get. And then we'll go to here, which is also a Skaven settlement. And again, I would fight this manually normally, but I'll just do that. And so here you have the option to sack the settlement, loot and occupy, raise, or occupy. In the early game, looting and occupying, even though it negatively impacts the province, is quite a good thing because you want to build up your slaves. You want to improve the amount that you've got there. And so here we've got some upgrades for Malekith. Again, we want to make sure that we're constantly getting more and more and more slaves. So I upgrade that, and we'll just upgrade the sorceress there too. So now here we've actually unlocked the initial province. That's what we want. Now there are a couple of different things here. One is you can go this route and reduce your slaves. I don't recommend doing that at this stage because we want to have enough to unlock that that right to sacrifice to Mathlan. So I don't like to select the ones that reduce slaves early on. You can go here and just get 5% extra money. I actually pretty much always select this one first because it actually unlocks the ability to perform the sacrifice to authority. And you don't use this one too often, but it can be, it's just good to get it unlocked when it's so simple to do. And we want to grow the crap out of this region as quickly as we can, because Naggarond is a very wealthy kind of province, especially once you get it built up, and so it's good to do that early on. Even more, you can come into here and your tech tree. There are lots of different options that you can focus on first. What you have to do with this tech tree specifically is you've got to actually train all 3 of these in order to unlock this one. This is a really good one here. One of the best units that you can get as Dark Elves is Shades. So I like to, you know, come through here. I usually start with this one just to get additional growth. And take all of these ones. You can go into here, again, improving your ability to get more slaves from battle, as well as just additional growth. Those are both good. But getting over here improves your dark shards, and then this improves your shades. This improves your Reaper bolt throwers, which you'll get later, and this improves your dark shards and shades. So getting to rework crossbows early is often really valuable. Now, if we go to the diplomacy tab here, one of the things with this faction is that you start relatively close to quite a few different dangerous groups, but the nice part is that you're actually like there are some very powerful Dark Elf factions that you're close to. Harganeth is just over here. They're quite good. You want to eventually confederate them and get Crone Hellebron. Haggrafe is Malice Darkblade's faction. You're actually in a military alliance with them. Honestly, in the first few turns, Malice is going to declare war on a lot of factions, and you are going to get dragged into a lot of wars with a lot of factions. Thing is that Malice is way the heck over here. So in terms of like who you're going to get into fights with, I mean, they're not really particularly you know, dangerous to you in the early game. It's just annoying to get constantly dragged into different wars with him, and it will definitely happen. If we look at the victory conditions here, the short campaign victory for Malekith is really focused around Tyrion's faction, which is all the way down here. So really, to even fulfill the short campaign, you need to work your way down in this direction here. Lothern is right here, so you want to take that eventually. But there are a lot of other factions that you want to get rid of too. Avalorn starts right here. You have Naggarond, which is actually up in this area. this Naggarond is quite a good faction to get rid of in the early game if you can. There's another faction actually over here, Torox the Brass Bull. This is a faction that I prioritize getting rid of because he spreads such a ridiculous amount of chaos corruption that it makes it really hard to move around in the area. And I like to get rid of the dwarves who spawn over here as well. Thorgrim Grudgebearer, he can be quite annoying there as well. All of these other factions, the Order of the Lore Masters is like literally on the other side of the map. They start way down here. Honestly, when I play as Malekith, I just hope that somebody else kills them because they are so far from anything. Same with the Knights of Caledor. They are way over here. This is like, again, really far away from where you start. So again, I hope that somebody else kills them. Yvresse is actually here, so you probably come across them as you go in to kill Avalorn and Tyrion's faction. So that's kind of your long victory, and the short victory is just attained. So like getting to this center area is really good. I like to work my way down this way and just solidify this while I go across up here, or just enough to meet Harganeth, so because I want them to kind of conquer the northern part. There's one other pretty dangerous faction up here, which is Valkia. Valkia is kind of like a lone lord. They can cause a lot of damage because they just don't really care about anybody in this area, so they might just roll in and kill Naggarond somewhat randomly. So that can be another faction you want to try to prioritize getting rid of. These guys here too, again, another annoying faction in this area, so getting rid of these beastmen can be a good thing as well. So while Naggarond's starting position is quite good, there are a lot of factions in the area you want to try to slowly knock out as you go. One thing to note too is that the chariots that Malekith starts with are really quite expensive. So, and I mean they're okay, but they're not that great. So sometimes I will actually disband these chariots right away because it adds, you know, a decent amount of extra money every turn. In the early game, what you really want to focus on with Malekith is just getting leveled up, funneling money into Naggaroth, and it's kind of slowly wiping out some of the factions in the area, and getting that kind of first black arc is a really good thing. There are a lot of factions that have corruption in this area, so if you can go into Malekith's tree here and get, I think it's later on, this one here is really strong because it gives you both replenishment and resistance to attrition. So I tend to, with Malekith, come down the blue line first just about all the time because getting him those campaign effects is really valuable. So that's about all I've got for this one. If you like the content, feel free to leave a comment, like the video, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in the future. Thanks for watching.